Okay, somehow I missed this, but a couple days ago, I guess it first started on Thursday, but then there was a bigger story that broke on Friday. There are a couple of leaks, I guess, out of the Defense Intelligence Agency claiming that they have a Chinese defector with, high-ranking Chinese defector who has knowledge about the lab leak and how it happened and how the Chinese tried to cover it up, and that the Chinese are now retroactively trying to produce sort of missing links in between that coronavirus and the Wu flu to make it look like there was a natural chain of evolution. And I have to say, as the lab leak theory becomes more mainstream and is accepted by the establishment, you have to start watching out for actual disinformation in the other direction against China now. Because as I've said before, the intelligence community says whatever they feel is in their best interest, regardless of whatever is true. They don't think in terms of truth and lies. They don't think in terms of fact and fiction. They think in terms of, okay, what benefits us. So you can't just take it as gospel, even if it, you happen to agree with the lab leak theory, like I do, like I have, for the past, year and a half, I guess now. If the U.S. intelligence community now is also on that side of that debate, they're going to put out whatever they think benefits them, regardless of whether it's true or not. So they will say things that support the lab leak theory that may as well be total BS. And I'm not saying that this story is total BS, that there isn't some defector who went to the DIA. And in fact, the only reason why I would give this story any credence is because these leaks are coming from the Defense Intelligence Agency, not the Central Intelligence Agency or the FBI. And the story specifically says that the DIA wanted to hide this defector from the CIA and the FBI because they didn't trust them. But again, this is an anonymously sourced story coming from a spy. And again, spies leak stuff all the time. Very often it is untrue, probably more often than not it is untrue. It is disinformation. It is trying to get people, trying to lead them astray down the wrong trail. And so when stories like this come out, again, this is tough because normally when these stories come out, they're going against whatever my bias is. So it's very easy for me to come out and say, oh, that's BS. Because it's something that I generally, disagree with to begin with. And so when one of these intelligence agencies has some anonymous, leaker telling the media about, some evidence that they claim they have, like weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, it's easy for me to dismiss them. But you have to keep in mind that you still need to be just as critical when they are saying things that you might like to agree with. Because this was the same case during the Cold War. The Soviet Union, really bad people, very terrible government. They murdered millions of people. That's not disputed. But the CIA still told a lot of lies about the Soviet Union. The U.S. government told a lot of lies about the Soviet Union and communist governments around the world. And so just because I hate communism, it doesn't mean that the lies told by the U.S. government about the communists were true. And so the same thing is true today. China, which I think is a worse government than the Soviet Union, just objectively, they killed many millions more people over the course of their, existence, mainly during the Great Leap Forward. That doesn't mean that every terrible horror story about them is true. Now, with all that out of the way, if this story is true or not, does it really change a whole lot? I don't think so. I think all it would change, I guess, is the internal attitude of the U.S. government, because what Red State is saying is that, all of this stuff, this defector coming forward, is a big reason why we're seeing this push against Fauci, which I find interesting, because that's something that I still have not figured out. Why all of a sudden is there this big, lab leak renaissance and a renewed skepticism of Dr. Fauci and the appearance that Washington is trying to push Fauci out and scapegoat him and hang him out to dry. Now, a story like this, where there is some kind of high-profile Chinese defector that comes forward and basically says, hey, your guy Fauci was working with the Chi-Coms to do all of this, that'd be a pretty good explanation if it were true. But again, you don't want to follow the mantra of the mainstream media during the Trump administration, which was, if it rings true, it is. Which means, hey, if this confirms my bias, well, then it's probably correct. Oh, and the last thing that you need to consider about all this is the places where these leaks were published. It's very strange. So the first one to get the leak was Adam Housley, who used to work for Fox News, I believe, and is now an independent journalist. I don't know what his connections are to the Defense Intelligence Agency, so I can't judge him one way or the other. And then the other outlet that got this leak was Red State, which is a conservative blog founded by Eric Erickson way back in the day. So those are just strange places where you don't usually see the intelligence community leak stuff when they want to, whether it's disinformation or not. It's just not. Those aren't places where you see the spooks give their leaks. Normally the spooks hand out leaks to the New York Times or the Washington Post. Those are who tend to be intelligence agency mouthpieces. But then again, they are used heavily by the CIA and FBI. And so perhaps if the Defense Intelligence Agency is worried about the CIA and the FBI, they're not going to leak something to puppets of the CIA and the FBI, if that makes sense. But still, I would have gone to bigger outlets than Adam Housley and Red State. You could have at least gone, I don't know, you could call up Ben Shapiro or something and told one of his folks about it, and because Daily Wire is a much bigger website than Red State. Or you could have gone to, I don't know, The Blaze or something, if you wanted to pick a conservative, non-establishment organization. Heck, why not go to the New York Post? The New York Post might be a little more sympathetic. Yeah, so I wouldn't have covered this at all if it was just a matter of this leak, because again, there's not enough confirmation for me to take it too seriously, but I think that as a general rule, it's good to go over and discuss why you need to be skeptical of stories like this in general. The spooks are waging a war for your mind, and knowing is half the battle, so just keep that in mind. So I'll end it there.